question is that the amendment be agreed to. I call the member for Shortland.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. And I found myself quite absorbed when I was listening to the contribution by the member for Solomon. And if I was to take at face value what she was saying and to believe what she was saying, well then I'd also have to believe that there were fairies at the bottom of the garden, because it sounded like we were having a little digression into Pollyanna and a world that the member for Solomon would like to see exist rather than the world that does exist. Mr Deputy Speaker, here in Australia we have a government that was elected without a plan and one that has no vision and no policies. The Abbott government was elected on a platform that was driven by a plan to undo rather than do, to move back rather than to move forward. A negative agenda driven by ideologues that have their vision of what the world should be, and they're trying to socially engineer our country, Australia, to actually put in place that social engineering, cutting welfare payments for the most marginal Australians, whilst giving $75,000 to wealthy women when they're having babies. Now, Mr Deputy Speaker, just alone in the first 2 months, the Abbott government targeted school payments, small businesses, environment, community safety and public programs. The school kids bonus was first on their target, and vehicle depreciation for small business, and of course the Climate Change Commission, an organisation that the Prime Minister and those on the other side sought to ignore and to demonise rather than to listen to. Crime prevention grants that were set to go and funded in the last budget were abandoned, and the NBN rollout is definitely under question and has been put on hold by those on the other side of this House, and we really don't know what their plan is for a national broadband network. Each day it changes. It's a moving feast, and every time the minister has a new idea, a thought bubble, he throws it out there, and then the next day it changes again. So we're really not too sure what's happening in the area of the NBN. Student debts could increase, disability services. I'm worrying about them being on the target, on the chopping block, and of course Centrelink services being cut back. Now, this is what I found so amusing about the member for Solomon's contribution to the debate. One of the first acts of the Abbott government was to increase our credit card limit to $500 billion. Hardly the act of a fiscally responsible, frugal government. And add to that the debt level has increased, our budget deficit has blown out, yet it's put to us that those on the other side of this parliament have the answers. Well, I'd argue that the answers they have are bad answers, answers that are not delivering to the Australian people. And, Mr Deputy Speaker, whilst the member for Solomon may have had a significant amount of money given to sporting groups in her electorate and promises that were made prior to the election, and every little community group given a little bit of money, in Shortland electorate, unfortunately, the government has clawed back money that was allocated under the previous budget, money that was allocated to a fantastic project in Shortland electorate, the Gul Gul Barang Centre, and the Abbott government has refused to honour a funding commitment to build the Gul Gul Barang Youth Support Centre at San Remo. Now, the Dakshan Aboriginal Land Council donated money, donated the land, should I say, and the former Labor government committed $2.7 million to build this centre in an area where it's starved of resources. And now the Federal Minister, Warren Truss, has refused to honour that commitment. It would have been a major boost for the region and a significant support for young people in the northern part of the Wyong Shire. And I'm devastated, really devastated, that this project won't proceed. It was such a worthwhile project. There were partnerships between the Darkashan people, between the San Remo Neighbourhood Centre, between a plethora of community groups that had come together, the local schools, the local employment agencies, the social inclusion program that was operating in the area. Each and every one of those groups had contributed to this proposal. And now those on the other side of this House, led by the Prime Minister and the Treasurer, and of course in this particular case Minister Truss, have decided that those people that are deprived of resources, those people that really need this so as that they've got a chance in life, so as that they have got the tools to actually find the jobs, to be able to become involved in every aspect of our society, have been denied that. And instead of an enabling approach that had been outlined by putting in place the Gulgul Barang Centre, what this government has decided to do was introduce a punitive approach, so as that they're planning to make cuts, if we are to believe the reports in the media, cuts to people receiving New Starts if they're not prepared to travel 90 kilometres a day. And I might add that on the northern part of the Central Coast in my electorate, people have either got to travel to Newcastle for work or travel to Sydney, which probably comes into that 90 kilometres, except for a few jobs in that area. One area that people could find work previously was the Blue Tongue Brewery, and Carlton United has put on the record that they're closing that brewery. The member for Dobell said there's support services in place for those workers. Yes, that always happens when a business closes and there's a number of workers that are made redundant. But what doesn't happen is more jobs. They're jobs that have been lost to the Central Coast, just as we've lost 63,000 jobs throughout Australia since the Abbott government came to power. Holden, Toyota, gone. Qantas, 5,000 jobs. Geelong and Rio Tinto in the Northern Territory, all jobs that have gone under the watch of the Abbott government that's there to turn the economy around, that's there to make Australia a better place. Well, I would argue very strongly that the only thing that the Abbott government has done is create a situation where a number of Australians are living in financial hardship and with very, very little hope of getting a job. And then that's going to be overlaid by punitive requirements that the Minister for Community Services has signalled, punitive approaches for those people that are victims, I reiterate, victims of this government's policy. They will be punished by receiving lower payments under New Start, being forced to travel long distances to seek work. And then you add to that the fact that a lot of noise is being made in the area of disability support pension, an area where the requirements to obtain that pension, or payment should I say, have been tightened significantly under the previous government, where a number of people who previously would have received a disability support pension and who have very little chance of finding work are now unable to access that payment. And what this government is intending to do is make it a lot worse for those people. What happens? What happens to a person that physically can't work, like the woman that came to visit me the other week who'd been a machinist for 25 years. She couldn't use her hands, she had extreme pain in her arms and neck. She had an MRI that showed that she had problems with her discs from the top of her spine to the bottom of her spine, yet she was being denied access to the disability support pension. Is this the sort of society we want to live in? A society where, on one hand, you've got very wealthy women receiving large payments for having babies, and I've heard it said the right sort of women having babies, and on the other hand, people that have worked hard, contributed to Australia and to our economy over a number of years, being denied access to any sort of reasonable safety net payment. It seems that those people that have worked hard and tried so hard, made enormous contributions to Australia, are now being targeted by what I'd have to say is a very uncaring government. And it's something that makes me very, very sad that I represent people who look to government for leadership, look to government to be able to deliver to them, and all we're hearing from those on the other side of this House is statements about justifying what they've done and justifying the fact that they're going to cut, and that the most vulnerable people in our society are going to be affected more than others. Now, recently I've been advised that the Medicare office at Charlestown, which is situated in one of the major shopping centres in the area, the major shopping centre in the Lake Macquarie, Newcastle area, it's going to be co-located with the Centrelink office. A cost-cutting exercise. Let's not pretend it's not a cost-cutting exercise. And the Centrelink office is already overworked. People that visit there are waiting very long periods of time. There's long queues. And if you add to that situation queues of people attending that office, which is where the Medicare office is to be co-located, then you're going to have even longer queues, an environment that will create anxiety amongst those people that visit there. Add to that the fact that the Medicare office is, if it is co-located in the Centrelink office, will be in a place that's got very poor parking, and it is hard for people to access. It's on a very busy road. So, Mr Deputy Speaker, all I can say is that under this government it's just been a series of cuts, a series of actions that are going to impact negatively on the people I represent in this parliament, be it 19,000 people in Shortland elected missing out on superannuation contributions, people who would have received $500 a year from the government with their superannuation into their superannuation fund, or be it businesses that will no longer be eligible for a tax write-off because of the fact that this government has reneged on the instant tax write-off for business assets costing less than $6,000 that was introduced by the previous government. And then the crime prevention funds that were allocated out of the previous budget to groups within Shortland electorate have been ripped back, clawed back by this government. Money that was funds that were going to the Lake Macquarie PCYC and funds that were going to improve safety in Lake Haven. This is a government, as Prime Minister Tony Abbott has flagged, that wants to curb growth in education and in health spending. This is a government that's set to introduce a GP tax on people attending doctors. This is a very uncaring government. This is a government that gets rid of the Alcohol and Other Drugs Council of Australia, whilst on the other hand it goes ahead with paying higher money to paying money to those people that are having babies that earn a high income. This government stands condemned for its actions and for its curbs in spending to those people in Australia that need it the most.
Order. Thank the member for Shortland for her contribution.